All right, bro.
But
It's great to see you again. It's been a
yeah,
while.
yeah, good to see you too, man.
Yeah, you look great, man.
Thanks.
How's everything been going, man? I've been following you guys. It seems like you're back to training, which
Yeah,
that's the only new normal I'm fucking worried about.
yeah, man. Yeah, finally everything's going good. Back to training. I kind of tweaked my back a little bit, but I feel good now. As you know, like I did that CJJ, and
Yeah, I watched that, man. That was awesome. And like I've met Eddie Fivey a couple of times. He's a good friend of a really good friend of mine, Jack Toffer.
mm,
So like I just know who he is. I've met him a couple of times, but yeah, what was that like? How is that the
well,
first time you've done a combat jujitsu match?
yeah. So I was just gonna say I did that and like had the weight cut and everything. So I've just been like trying to get my body back to normal. But yeah, dude, that the combat jujitsu was amazing. I had been it with Hunter, but it was my first time to do one. Yeah, it was so crazy, man. Um, the weight cut was it shouldn't have been an issue. It really shouldn't have, because I've done 145. I used to compete at 145 and stuff, and I was gonna be fine on the weight cut, and then right before 2 weeks before the tournament, I went to Honduras, and when you're on vacation, you kind of have fun, and
Yeah.
so when I got back, I was like 180, um, and I had 2 weeks to cut like whatever it was, like 180 to 145. Um, and I didn't do a very good job of cutting the weight. I'll just be honest. I was like, well, let me just get it off as quick as I can, so I'll just starve myself. And I made the weight, and then I felt confident, like I'll be able to hydrate and I'll feel great tonight. And I started hydrating and started eating, and I had just done something really bad to my body. Um, I to go into a kind of gross detail, like I hadn't gone to the bathroom. I had taken a piss, but I hadn't gone to the bathroom number two for a week leading up to the tournament. And then after eating and everything, I didn't end up doing it for a whole nother week or two after. Like my body was just in shock, man. I basically had to reteach my body how to digest food. So like backstage, I'm eating and the food's going down, but it's stopping like right here. And so I just kept burping up like acid indigestion, and nothing would go down into my stomach because I hadn't eaten in like I had eaten avocados, and then I switched from I'd eaten like seeds, and then there were days that I just didn't eat. Not a very good weight cut at all, but I made the weight, so I was like, let's just try to eat, get out there and healthy. And yeah, backstage I was not excited. So when you
Did you have
watch,
like that heartburn like while you were in your
yes,
matches? Fuck, I
yes,
hate rolling with heartburn, man.
yeah, and after my first match, I was like starting to acclimate, and I was like, okay, let me just drink a little water and take a Tums, and that kicked me right back into the cycle of acid coming back up. So like I was happy after my first match. I was like, my body is actually starting to get where I need it to be. And then going into my second match, I felt terrible again. Um, but it's weird. I was like, man, that was my worst performance, but my happiest I've ever been with like doing a jiu-jitsu tournament, and the most money I've ever made doing a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Nice.
Like, it was
Yeah.
insane, man.
Man, I was
Um,
super excited when I saw you were going to do that because is that the first competition you've done in a while?
yeah, I really just kind of, I had some personal life stuff go on, and I was like, man, it made me kind of feel weird towards jujitsu and everything. And then I opened Brothers, and I was like, let me just focus on this. And then all my students were like, we want to see you compete. So I did a couple like little competitions, and this opportunity came up. like basically Hunter told me, hey man, they're looking for somebody to do 145. You should do it. And I was like, yeah, man, I'd love to. So he hit up Eddie, and Eddie was like, yeah, he's in. Um, and yeah, at that point, it was basically like, hey, I'm never going to cut weight again. But since this is CJJ, since it's Eddie, like I would love to do any weight. I'll do the 145. I'll make the cut. So if I ever do compete again, I'll probably end up competing, but I won't ever cut weight again. I would probably like 170 is the lowest I'll ever compete again.
Yeah, man,
Because it just makes it about something else. It makes it not about jujitsu. And I don't like that life. I don't like focusing on food for my life. I like focusing on jujitsu, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I remember kind of like watching you cut to 45 a couple of times, and like it blowing my mind. I want to say you had made a cut, so you did this, taught a seminar at my gym like 3 years ago or something, right? But I want to say like you cut, I'd seen you enrolled with you at probably like 170 around that time. Then you cut to 45, and I was like, oh shit. But that's awesome. You can do that. I mean, if you have to.
I cut to 135 for Nogi Worlds, and so I knew I could make the weight, but my performance at Nogi Worlds was terrible. So I was like, okay, don't ever do 135 again. And in my mind, I was like, don't ever cut again. But again, like doing one of Eddie's tournaments has been one of my dreams, you know. So I was like, if I can get in a 145, I'll do it. And whenever I was talking to him, he was like, yeah, if you ever want to do a higher weight, let me know. So we'll see. I don't know. Right now, I'm really just focusing on my students, you know.
Well, that seems to be working too. I would say just based off what little I mean, I see you guys. Follow you on Facebook and social media, but it seems like you guys are building an incredible team, right?
Yeah, that's
Hunter being also like. How did you and Hunter get together? Like, is he you like co-owner with you, or just?
So the way that it all went down was like, I was a blue belt at Triton, and then Hunter showed up at Triton. Well, okay, so I was at Triton training, and then our buddy Brock was there training, and then Hunter came in with a couple of different people. It was like him, Connor, this guy Jordan Langston, and then Mason. And you know, we were all friends. We're like, I considered us all brothers. So I was like, hey man, let's open up, we started Triton Nogi. That was you know, I was teaching the Triton Nogi classes, and you know, eventually it was a thing where like we're gonna open a spot, and I just decided like, let's call it Brothers. And they all hated on it for a minute, but I was like, this is definitely going to be the name. It's definitely going to fit.
I like it. I like your logo too.
Yeah. Thank you, Omar French, for that.
Man, Omar is so creative. Like he was on the podcast, but like the cartoon characters he's doing right now, and like all his gear, I'm just like always. I'm like, he's got an Omar French clock.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So I kind of forgot what I was saying. We opened up
all brothers.
Yeah. So we opened up our own spot, and at that time, it was kind of centered around like I would be the main instructor, and then Hunter would be an instructor, and Connor would be an instructor, and Brock. And then Brock had some stuff going on in his personal life, so he had to stop training. And then Corbin came in. So now we have like a slightly different group with a slightly different dynamic, but basically it's like Pete helped me open Brothers, and then all of my teammates have helped me keep it going as far as like, you know, teaching classes. Like Connor and Corbin are teaching the beginners classes, and then Hunter and I are teaching the regular night classes, and then I just teach the morning classes as well.
Nice.
But as far as like ownership, Hunter's not getting any profits, but I look at it more as like we're all working together to understand how an academy works. And that's kind of what Pete did for me. He like showed me how to run the Nogi side of things. so that eventually they'll be able, like, they all want their own academies. You know, Connor wants to open up probably in OKC. I'm not exactly sure where Hunter wants to open up. But we always joke, as soon as they go into business, they'll put me out of business. So.
Man, so Hunter, so he turned pro, and then like I saw some people being like, whoa, that's kind of, you know, in the comments here, and they're like, is this too soon for him to do that?
Oh, yeah.
You know, he hasn't had very many fights.
Right.
Should he be doing that? But damn it, it's like, is he undefeated as a pro in MMA? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He was talking to me like, should I do amateur? And I was like, yeah, dude, definitely do amateur just to get comfortable, because you want to be comfortable. You don't want to get an L on your pro record because a guy was more comfortable, like a guy that you're better than, but he's just more used to it. And I was like, you know, it's a different thing. Just go out there, get an amateur fight. And as soon as he won his amateur fight, he was like, yeah, I'm going pro right away. And I was like, man, let's make that money, you know?
Well, I mean, he's been successful, and like, I've watched his fights, and, you know, I just kind of had seen that people, and I knew he had an amateur fight. And I watched his fights, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, no, we're good. Like,
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Like, we've been trying to think about, you know, what his path should be, because I just want to support, you know, whatever he wants to do. Whatever the path is, if it's you know, UFC champion, or if it's something more modest, whatever it is, I just want to make sure he reaches those goals. And I really think he has the capability. And if I start focusing on him, and like, if I can find the formula on what do people need to get to that spot, then he won't be the last person I try to help get there. You know, I could try to do the exact same thing that I'm doing now, helping him, that I can do that with Corbin. Corbin's like 4 years younger than him. And we joke, like, Corbin doesn't think he'll be better than Hunter, because we all know how good Hunter is. But I'm like, dude, you're better than Hunter was when he was 21. So when you're 25, how good are you going to be, man?
It blew my mind when I found out how young Corbin was. So, like, I drilled with Corbin at the George Valadares seminar back at Omar's. Dude, I saw a picture of George the other day. Like, muscles right here I didn't even know existed. I was like, damn, bro.
Yeah. I think we all saw that photo, George.
Oh, man. But, yeah. Well, so speaking of like, okay, you know, you're thinking about this formula of here, and obviously – some of your equations are working, whatever you guys have going on. What are some things that you're doing at your academy that, I mean, so you've always been creative, inspired me. Like, I saw some of your early successes when you're at purple belt with leg locks, right?
Yeah.
And it does seem like you, for whatever reason, on other, you guys have been a little ahead of the curve. Like, what is setting you guys apart?
Well, the things, if I was to take any credit, it would be creating an environment that breeds that type of thing. Like, I'm always trying to teach to the top of the class. That's why I don't teach the beginners, because my brain is like, it's not that I hate teaching beginners. It's just like, I want you guys to get past this to get onto the bigger stuff. And that's always what I'm trying to push my guys with. And, you know, there's nothing wrong. I talked about this in my other podcast, but there's nothing wrong with people putting out a product that fits their needs with what they have with their life. So a way that you can understand that is like, I just have my academy. Like, the bills I have to pay are so small. So I just focus on competitors as my product. Like, if I had to focus on my beginners course, I had to focus on my student or my kids course, it might make me kind of change the way I'm teaching, or change the environment to where it's more family oriented. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone that I train with at Triton, like, respects that type of a environment. I want to just have people that want to train really, really, really hard. And a lot of people don't want to train that way. That's fine. but like that's why you see it, is because like the people here, it's more like a wrestling room. It's more like the level of respect isn't like, hey, you know, make sure you're coming in shaking my hand. Like that's not respect. Respect is like train your ass off, train so hard, because if I see you sit out around and now this guy doesn't have like a train, I'm gonna get on your ass. Like we're, like I said, more of a wrestling room. It's like I'm constantly pushing the guys to work hard, work harder, work harder, work harder. And then it's a small room, so anytime I see something, I can call my guys on it and like mention it right there. Um, it's like having a coach instead of having, you know, maybe having a professor that has to see over tons of students. Yeah. I'm like actually there. I'm actually able to talk to my students and like, I overcoach. I'm just obsessive, and sometimes, you know, they're like, whatever, but like I'm not listening to him, but usually it comes back around full circle. But like honestly, it's not like I made these guys hard workers. They're hard workers and they came to train with me. You know what I'm saying? So like, and allowing that environment to happen is really more of what I would say I've done, is like I train hard and I let these guys train hard, and I try to keep them training hard. I don't ever try to pull them back and say like, hey guys, make sure we're chilling out, unless it's like a spastic white belt, you know? But
I do.
yeah, I think that there's different environments in academies, and the academy that we have is really, really good for success. And I mean, there is like the other side where we're all studying jujitsu and we're all trying to look at the waves. You know, like the wave that we're on right now is like back in the day, I got really into leg locks because I saw how efficient leg locks were and how people weren't studying leg locks, so it would be super easy to leg lock them. As that wave was going, people started realizing you could take the back off those leg entries we were using. So like if I'm in like reverse De La Hiva and I throw my leg over to go to honey hole, as I'm doing that, you can pull your knee out and take my back. And same thing, if you put me in outside ashi, I can like switch your hips and take your back off of it. So, and the same thing with like regular ashi, there's like all these little positions where you can get into what we call the leg ride position, or like the truck hooking spot. So I was getting my back taken by Hunter all the time, and we weren't really addressing it. I was just slowly moving away from leg locks. And then I started trying to figure out what he was doing, and we looked at it, and I figured out, oh, okay, this is how he keeps taking my back. So then I started showing, I'm always showing leg locks at my academy. So I started showing how he was taking my back off those leg locks. So guys started taking the back off the leg locks, and other people stopped leg locking. They're like, oh, leg locks don't work anymore. And now we're looking at like Lachlan Giles' 90-10, because you can't really get your back taken whenever you're doing the K guard or the De La Hiva entries into the 90-10 or the backside 50-50. And that's really what the main focus has been as far as leg locking goes, is the 90-10 in our academy. But past that, the main focus has probably been taking the back, because you still have guys that are coming in trying to leg lock our guys. So everybody's just like, take their back when they're doing that. And then there's also like my path right now is like allow the guy to do whatever back entry or truck entry he's doing, and then just focus on flipping the truck. Like that's my main thing right now, is just like, whoop.
Yeah. It's super interesting to see the waves too, right? And then like to be able, like, so that's one thing I just kind of like brought us to that conversation, is like you being able to kind of spot as a coach or a practitioner or competitor, like, oh, this is a wave and I'm kind of already riding it, and a lot of people are trying to catch it. It's But I remember you talking about that. You're like how you were developing these back takes like a couple of years ago when we talked, and then I saw Hunter at that gravitas on video hit that double butterfly back take.
Yeah.
Which is a sick back take. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I think it, I think it has to do with, you know, being on the pulse of jujitsu training, competing and stuff like that. But then it also has to do with like watching video. Like if you're watching video, you're seeing these things. If you go back and you watch ADCC Worlds, the last one that we just had, um, I had been talking to my students about these positions and these back takes. And then as I went through ADCC Worlds, the last one, I'm screen grabbing videos of the techniques I'm talking about, and I'm showing in class, and I'm putting them in the group chat. And some of the guys in the group chat are like, "Stop!" And some of them are just like, "Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's so crazy." So if you're watching video, then you can follow these trends. But to the untrained eye, you're just like, yeah, he went for his leg and then the guy ended up on his back. You don't really see what's happening. And that's what it was with Hunter and I for a while. I had no idea what he was doing. I just knew every time I go to his legs, he takes my back. So it takes kind of brainstorming. Like it took me rep after rep after rep of getting my back taken to understand what he was doing. Whereas most people just won't ever take the time to try to figure it out. They'll just say, well, I go for his leg, he takes my back. There's no actual connecting points. Whereas we just kind of broke it down and like really looked at it. But most people don't really take the time, you know?
Yeah, I guess like kind of what I'm thinking when you're talking about is like you're in this jujitsu zeitgeist. You're staying in the jiu-jitsu zeitgeist. You're up with the spirit of the times. And that's a passive activity, man. Like what you're talking about with like watching footage. I always have to like take notes myself if I'm watching footage to something extra to keep me engaged, because it's such a I mean, some matches, no, but like, yeah, and you're talking about two high-level guys, and you're gonna wait 3/4 of the match to see two awesome things, and then it's a this guy, you know, won 1 point, or something like that. But I mean, but like what you're saying, like really having the patience to dig in and like, okay, let's break that down. Let's think critically about it.
It does help if you know, like if you know there's a technique in the video or in the match that you're wanting to see, it definitely helps. Because I had the same thing happen where like you don't want to just watch hours and hours and hours of video, because it just kind of seems to a certain point it's like it all looks the same. But then whenever I tell my students like, hey, go look at this match of Canuto and the back take he does, and then go look at this match where Gary's doing this against this guy and he does the same back take, then they're watching it, but they're waiting to see the specific position. Like they're waiting to see when does he get that, we call it the leg ride. It's like a pinch on the thigh. And then you're just trying to figure out like, okay, that's where he got it. That's how he set it up. And like, I don't know, whenever you're just watching video, you can definitely get bored. But if you're the coach, like you got to get bored, you know? Like a lot of people talk to me about Danaher's videos and they're like, man, sometimes he just repeats the same thing over and over and I get bored watching it. And I'm like, well, I have to watch all of his DVDs to be the best professor that I can, you know? And professor, coach, you know, I do think there's a difference. I don't know if you picked up on that. I think there's
I've kind of went back and forth on that, like with like what you're saying about like come shake my hand. I'm like, look, I'm a college professor and I still don't. I'm like, yeah, you guys call me bro.
Right.
Call me bro.
Yeah.
If I don't like having to ask people to call me things, honestly. I can't ever visualize myself being like, look, bro, I'm gonna need you to start referring to me by this title. But I get what you're differentiating between, like, you know.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a professor is helping you in life and a professor is helping you on the mats. But then I feel like a coach is more sport and competition specific. Yeah. And I do want to be a professor to people that need that. There are people that, I mean, I have young students that need me, honestly, not at all points of their life, but at times of their life needed me to slightly be a father figure, I will totally do that. But that's not my main goal right now. That's later on. I see the path, and I don't want to step to that path too early, because it's a lot of responsibility to be, that for some young kid. But yeah, whenever they show me respect, like I said, the respect should be shown through hard work. I want your respect as my student, and if you don't respect me, then you can't be here. But it's not the same traditional respect that you would see. And with that in mind, my role should be different. I should treat you like not necessarily only one of my students, but one of my athletes that I'm trying to help with their sport. I don't know if that makes any sense, but traveling,
it does.
Like the idea would be, not every professor is going to travel to see you compete, but your coach should travel to see you compete. That's the way that I have always taken it, is like, I need to be there and be a part of this situation so that I can, take on the label as this person's coach, and if I feel like,
do you think both are possible? Like, let's say I've seen Donaher running his class in like 3 directions.
Yes. Oh, Donaher's a great example. He's somebody who I feel like everyone treats him like a professor, and he is the professor to the people there. And then he also is the coach of those athletes. That's something that I'm trying to grow into 100%. Right now, I'm more like, to some students, I am a professor. To most of my students, I'm a coach. Because I want that dynamic of where, like, we can brainstorm. I'm not this thing that's above you. You can come to me with info, and it'll help everyone in the class. That's really how I started, was like me and a group of 3 other blue belts. We were all just kind of taking the techniques that we enjoyed and brainstorming and branching off of them. And so I didn't want that completely to go away. I didn't want it to be like, I'm the professor, all you guys circle up and listen. Like I have the point where, like, all right guys, circle up, we all come in together. And then, like, as I dismiss people, I'll usually have somebody come up and say, like, hey, check this out real quick. And if I think what they just showed is important, I just recircle real quick. And I'm like, hey guys, look at this. I'll have the other person show it. Because, I mean, I'm a black belt, but now we have like 3 other black belts in here. So why would I act like I'm the professor and all you guys need to shut up? Like, no, man, we're all here as brothers learning together,
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. We'll probably have like 6 black belts on the mat in the next 2 months.
We're promoting,
in the next couple of years.
We're promoting 5 this year from my
Wow.
school. Yeah.
Congrats, brother.
Thanks, dude. Cora is one of them. So
hell yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's gonna be amazing, and we're trying to have a kid right now. So she's gonna, and she's gonna keep training. I anticipate that she'll train while she's pregnant. To the greatest extent that she can. But it's awesome to share that and to be able to see her achieve that. It's been she's trained for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, man, so like, how do you divide, like you've mentioned beginner and advanced, right? I'm fascinated just running a gym. Like, we just started having our advanced classes for like the first time since I've been open. And we do an advanced no-gi. We started doing, like, Omar does a systems class. I've been talking to him about that for a while, and we started doing that 1 day a week. Been a great success with that. And we have like some advanced, like, after I have a normal class and we bow out, and it's just like, hey, now we're free rolling open mat. We almost situationally roll in the fundamental class or whatever. Like, how do you guys do it?
So I never had a beginner's class in the beginning. That was something that my students talked me into recently. And I even said, like, I'm not teaching it. Like, if you guys wanted to, and they were like, fine, we'll teach it. And they were like, you'll have new students, and like, this we have to do this. And I was like, if you guys want to do it, cool. I've always, just the phrase that I've used is teach to the top of the class. And that's what I was doing at Triton as well. Like, whenever I was the no-gi teacher at Triton, I was just teaching to the top of the class. And by that, I mean, There are going to be things that people don't understand, and that's fine. They'll catch up. And basically, instead of holding certain students back and kind of, I guess you could say, babying certain students, I don't do that at all. I just teach the top, and it forces everyone else to rise to the occasion, and it forces them to learn, because they're not like, oh, he's like spoon feeding me this like basic understanding of jiu-jitsu. Like, no, I'm trying to give you a bigger picture, and you're going to figure it out. And I don't know, man. I've really been surprised by the success. Like, I've had guys over time where I'm like, oh, this guy's not really, not really going to show any promise. And then months later, I'm like, wow, man, you're way better than I thought you were going to be. And one of my best friends, that's a great example of him, is Connor. I don't know if you've seen Connor. When Connor started, I was like, well, Hunter's going to be good, but I don't know if Connor's going to be that good. And then Connor picked up on all my leg lock stuff right away. And the funny thing is, Connor's like the first guy to be like, man, stop teaching all that leg lock stuff to the guys in the beginning. You got to teach all their basics. And I'm like, dude, what if I would have not taught you leg locks? You know what I mean? Like, he picked it up so quickly whenever he was like a blue belt. And I don't want people to get this idea of there's advanced jiu-jitsu that we have to keep from them, and leg locks are included in that advanced jiu-jitsu. Like, whenever they ask me, beginners will ask, am I allowed to go to that advanced class? I'm like, I want you to go to that advanced class. That's where you're going to learn the most. In the beginners class, it's more like they're explaining why would we be doing this? It's like in the beginner class, they're more explaining it to someone who's used to street fights, and they're like, so why are we in the guard? And it's like, well, if you got taken down, now you're here. And it's more like they're explaining it to someone looking at it from a civilian point of view, not like a jiu-jitsu art, and I guess that would be the main difference. Whenever you're in my class, I'm teaching it as if it's like a beautiful thing, not this like, so what does this have to do with fighting? You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Like in beginner class, they're teaching the basics of drawing, and you're painting a beautiful work of art.
Yeah, they're trying to explain, like, this is where I put the line for the body, and this is where I put the lines for the legs and the arms, and I draw a circle on top. And I'm like, that's cool, but like, why don't you just show them how to draw people? You know what I mean? I don't know. But again, some people do need that. There are tons of people that are like, dude, I am not going to fit into that class. I'm going to start in the beginner's class. I feel more comfortable there. Fine. That's fine, man. I hope in a few years that you're not going to feel that way. But if you get stuck in the beginner's class forever, fine. That's why it's there. But again, that's not I don't want to sound insensitive to those people, but that's not my mission right now. My mission is not grow this academy for everyone. My mission right now is grow this academy for my competitors so that we can have a room full of killers. Like, I'm always interested in pushing towards our biggest school here is Broken Arrow. I just want to push into the Broken Arrow wrestling team. And those are teenagers. They're not businessmen with money that they can pay me. They're going to come in and train hard, and they're going to talk to their friends about how hard it is. And the people that think they're, the most badass wrestlers of Broken Arrow, I want them to come here so that they can up our level and up their level whenever, they go and do their thing as well. And, you hear now, like, OSU is kind of like a connecting point for people trying to get into like AKA and the UFC. So, I think there's, like you said, or like we talked about, there's formulas. It's just trying to figure out how to use what's been given or what you can use, like, it's weird.
It's mad scientisty, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is. We're over here making smoke with our chemicals and stuff. But so let me left out, like, I know a little bit about your story, man. Like, we've hung out, you taught a seminar at my school, like, without me asking you 24 questions on the topic, and just let you kind of go into it, because I know you have a pretty incredible story. Like, in what ways did jiu-jitsu, like, not just lead you here, but like positively change your life? Because I feel like that's a part of your story.
Yeah, man. So jiu-jitsu, whenever I was coming up, I I was kind of like a pretty violent kid, but it was because of out of my insecurities. I wasn't sure if I could protect myself. So I was getting in all these violent altercations because of random past trauma, and it was fun. And like, but I knew like this is gonna end up bad. It actually really ended up bad one time. I got hit by a car, and I
remember talking about that. I was gonna like lead out with like, so tell me about your traumatic brain injury, but I was like, let's just ask him how jiu-jitsu's you know, a part of all of that.
Yeah, I don't normally talk about the traumatic brain injury because, you know, random implications, but I basically tried to fight a guy and it went the wrong way, and I was, you know, just intoxicated doing stupid stuff, and he hit me with his car and I flatlined. They had to shock me back twice, and I was in the hospital for about a week, and then I was on like bed rest in my living room at my parents' house for like 2 months. And I went from like 165 to 140, and just mentally it really, really fucked with me. My sense of emotions, my memory, my sense of smell, which isn't a big deal, but all these things. But it also made me more obsessive than I already was. So the brain injury, in a way, helped me with jiu-jitsu, and the brain injury pushed me away from MMA, which pushed me towards jiu-jitsu. So there were ups and downs, but so I was at this point where I was this violent, insecure person, and now my brain's fucked up, so I probably shouldn't fight either. And I needed something, and jiu-jitsu was perfect. Now I don't have this insecurity anymore, and I still get the tests. You know, like before I looked at me fighting as just tests. I still get to test myself every day, but it's not this negative, unhealthy thing. You know, I'm hanging out with my friends, we love each other, and we're taking care of each other in the most healthy way, you know. But then there's also the other sides that jiu-jitsu's helped me. My life now is jiu-jitsu. Pete, my professor, he's given me the opportunity for jiu-jitsu to be my life. And man, for a long time, I thought that I was a happy guy because I was making money, but I wasn't making money in a legitimate way, and I was always looking over my shoulder, and I was worried, and I was not happy. And one day I was in the shower, and I realized that wasn't my life anymore. I realized that I was making money doing jiu-jitsu, and I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do. And I realized like I was out of it. Like I was out of the bad shit that I grew up in, man. And I just broke down and cried, and I was like, how did I fucking live like that for so long and just accept it, that like, no, this is what I got to do. And like, finally I'm happy, and I don't have to do anything like at all. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, man. Jiu-jitsu is 100% my life. My friends joke around. They're like, you should get a side job and make some more money. I'm like, why would I do that? Well, I'm here, dude. I made it. Why would I get a side job?
Man,
it blows my mind. It blows my mind, dude.
It does. I had a similar incident, like where Corey and I had been living in our house, right? So we lived in an apartment for like 7 years. That you came to that apartment, right?
Yeah.
Lived there forever. I was in college, got my master's degree, broke as fuck, taking out student loans and stuff. But dude, like, we've been living here for about a year. had not even really, I don't even think I'd begun teaching at the college at all, right? I think it was just all through the gym, right?
Yeah.
But when I realized, like, Cora's like, oh my God, like, hey, we don't have $75. We usually have $75 when all the bills are paid, but we have, this much. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, but it was just like the contrast, like what you're saying, like it was like literally like, oh man, if my tire blows out this week, I'm fucked,
Yeah.
And it went from that to like, oh hey, does your car need new tires? Like, because we could do that if we need to.
Yeah.
That's contrasted. Like, man, I've heard a lot, Eddie Bravo, all these people talk about like that's in a big way making it, man. It's just not like being able to do your passion and not worry.
Yeah. Honestly, man, it's that, but then it was also connected to so many other things, man. It was honestly a moment of letting go. It's going to sound weird, but it was a moment of like letting go of self-hate. It was like, I don't know why, but all of a sudden it was like, man, you're not doing those things you were doing and you're out of that hole and now you can love yourself. And
that's big.
It made me emotional, it hit me really hard. And, yeah, man, it's been a couple years now that I've been running Brothers, and it still blows my mind that I'm able to do this. Cause for real, I thought I was going to be a homeless person. I really, like, I joke with my friends. I'm like, dude, I'm just like this guy that's practically a homeless guy, and you guys are just pulling me up. And they're like, man, you're doing great. And I'm like, I really, really appreciate everybody's help, because like, it's so easy to fall into a hole, And if you don't have like examples in your life of what things could be like, you don't have hope, you don't have ambition. And yeah, man, like Pete really just showed me all this is possible. You just have to take baby steps, keep working, and be a good person. And I was like, dude, I'll do my best. And he's helped me every step of the way,
Well, man, even before we ever had a conversation, right? And I know, like, this would probably be back when you had a lot going on. I don't know. It's like, I think I saw you for the first time when you were a blue belt, if I'm not mistaken, like at a Tulsa tournament or something.
Yeah.
But man, even when I didn't know you, I was looking at you being like, that dude's got something going on, right? Like,
thanks, man.
Whatever it is, like, it was like, it wasn't just heel hooks. I would see you roll. And then too, I liked your name. I'm like, in jams? It's awesome. Or just in time, whatever you want. Oh man. But yeah, seriously, like I remember us one day at like noon class, we were like, this when I was this is probably like 2 or 3 years ago, like you had put out a video of like a reverse X to the far leg.
Yeah.
And we were like huddled around, like watching it on the phone, like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, we just couldn't get it,
That's
like,
so
Cora
awesome.
took a picture of it, and like, I remember like messaging you about it. But man, but if you've done that for me, like, I always like to bring this up to people, is like one time, like me and my friend Nate were standing around Justin Raiders, like blowing our mind with guillotine information. We're just like, and my friend Nate, who's like, man, he's taught me so much. He had 31 pro fights, first degree black belt. He's just an amazing practitioner, and he's like, dude, that guy's just blowing my mind. It's like, well, hey, bro, you've blown my mind many times. Like, I look at you in a similar way that we look at him.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I don't know. Like, it's weird to like, I don't want that validation. I don't want people being like, yeah, Brian inspired. But it's a byproduct of what you're doing, like, yeah. I'm like, oh, James, I want to do a podcast with him for all the reasons we talked about so far.
Yeah. It bums me out, man. People sometimes, like, the further you get up in competition, they make it seem like it's a bad thing to be fans of people's jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, aren't we all fans of jiu-jitsu? Like, people like make fun of me because like I'll dick ride Gordon, and I'm like, dude, I love his jiu-jitsu. I've been a fan of Gordon since I was a fucking blue belt. That's never gonna change. I'm always gonna be a huge fan.
Do you know who Jason Ryan is?
Oh yeah.
There's no bigger Gordon Ryan dick rider than that guy.
Yeah. Jason's hilarious. hilarious, man. He cracks me up.
Me too. He's been on the podcast, I think, twice
Really?
now. Yeah, he's
That's awesome.
he's a good dude. He's come down and trained with me a couple times. He
Yeah.
trains at well, it does like Nate, the guy I mentioned, the Inferno gyms up in Northwest Arkansas. He trains up there now. So
Right on.
yeah. Well, bro, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you taking the time. It's actually I'm trying to talk to as many people attached to like the culture you're talking about as I can. I had Omar on.
For sure.
And I'm gonna try and I had Molinax on the other day. I'm trying grand finale it all with Pete at the.
For sure, man.
I've made the rounds, but sure. I really appreciate you taking the time, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, no worries.
Right on. Bro.
If you ever want, I know I had thought about coming on to talk about the match. If you ever want to talk about the match and like break it down, we could do that.
Like maybe like a screen share or something.
Yeah. And we could like have the match on there. I can show you. Yeah, man.
We did that. Comes out this Thursday. I did that with some Marcelo Garcia matches with one of our coaches last week. So we can definitely do that.
For sure, man. That'd be awesome.
Right on, bro. Well, thanks so much, James. Appreciate you, dude. Have a great day.
You too, man.